Hey, this is Justin with DayTradeTheMarkets.com on the 26th of April, Thursday, 2012. Wanted to take a quick look at the ES on today and talk specifically about some of the stuff we haven't really talked about in previous videos, but I want to talk about what we call our breakout trade and some other trading ideas that you can utilize with this. But to start out, I want to talk about it on a little bit of the bigger picture level because it's so important to be able to put all of these trade ideas and concepts into the context of the bigger picture. So heading into the day, well, you know what? Let me just bring over the our report that we do each day. So going into today, we do a report on the ES here, and what we were talking about was that our bias was certainly leaning up. It wasn't completely sold on that, but if we could get above this 87.50, should the market accept price above it, then we shift to up strongly, and then the next target up would be in the 1398 to 1400, and we look for support in the 82 area. Okay, so that's going into the day, and you can see I've written that on my chart, and I've got the lines here at 82, and basically overnight the market traded down to 82, and we basically traded up to 1398 here on the high of the day, basically to the tick. But the key level in the sand, we were leaning up going into the day, but we wanted to see how the market could react around this 87.50 level, which is this line here, and you can see that early in the day we consolidated quite a bit along this support resistance zone. You can see that the resistance held decently in here, and it wasn't until this bar here that's a little hard to see right now. I'm going to actually zoom in on this in a second, but we had what we call a level 3 or extreme buying aggression paint bar on the high of the day. And the reason I bring that up is because this is what we call our breakout trade. And what that is, you know what, let me just bring up the in our manual here. If I bring that over here in our manual, we have various trade entry concepts, and I think it's and I'll go through this a little bit here, but it's just so important. This is such a key. We don't call this a system. It's not robotic. I mean, this took me years to learn, but it's you want to have the foundation of some trade entry concepts, at least in my opinion. But the whole key, in my opinion, that's so important that so many people struggle to learn, and this took me a long time to figure out myself, is that you can't be completely systematic. You're not a robot. The key is to have trade entry setups that have an edge, but then to be able to put them into context. Okay, so we have various trade entry ideas here. We talk a lot about the confluence idea, but we have some momentum or trade based entries here, and a few of these. The one I'm going to talk about here is what we call the pure breakout trade. And you can see here that if we have the high of the day in place, and then we have a level 3 buying aggression bar that breaks out on the high of the day, it's not a bad idea to just hop on board. Same thing on the short side. If you have the low of the day in place and a level 3 selling aggression bar making a new low, it's telling us that there's some extreme selling aggression coming into the market. Makes sense to be getting on board. Okay. Now the key, this is a very important distinction. You're not just going to want to blindly sell every level 3 selling aggression bar that makes a new low, or buy every level 3 buying aggression bar that makes a new high. Yes, there's edge in that, but it's not a good enough edge in my opinion. The whole key is to have context. And so what you'll want to do is you'll want to make sure that if you're selling this breakout trade, that you have the bigger picture bias down or the filter being red. Same thing on the upside. You don't want to just blindly buy every time you have a breakout with a level 3 buying bar. But if you have a green filter, if you have an intraday bias of up, if you've just gotten above a major support level, for example, then it makes a lot of sense. It's all about the context, and I hope you understand what I'm saying with that. So when we look at today, let me actually zoom in a bit on this because it's a little hard to see. But and I've made these. It's a little hard to see because this zone overlaps it, but in real time that zone wasn't there yet. It didn't show up until you can see it right here. But we had, the market had bounced off of this resistance area earlier, but we were looking at that 87.50 area right here as kind of our line in the sand. You can see the market had been above there and even tested it, and had been above there for a couple of hours when we then go ahead and make new highs right here on this level 3 buying aggression bar. But what's the key? The key is our bigger picture bias was up and was certainly confirmed once we were above this 87.50. Our filter was green. Okay, so all signs are pointing to it makes sense to be long. And this is a good setup when you have that context in place. Just hop on board, and obviously you can see that the market took off there. Now, if you're looking for just pure confluence, let me backtrack a second here. So the idea here, I know in a lot of these videos we've talked about the idea of confluence, where you have a lot of evidence coming together, and in essence there is a lot of evidence there. It's not as pure of a confluence play as, say, taking a trade right here, because here what you have, again, you have your intraday bias being up, you have a filter that's green, you have a green support zone right here, and then you see a bar that decelerates right there, telling us it's a probable turning point. Okay, that's kind of one of those pure ideas for a confluence long. You don't just have to, wait for those perfect confluence situations. In fact, I sent a link earlier today for a webinar, recording of a webinar that Dave and I did yesterday, and we talk about that a lot in this webinar. That it's a concept that we call direction first, then location, where you, again, it's all about putting it in context. We use these clues that the software is giving us and that our bigger picture analysis that Dave does every night gives us to try to get a good handle on the likely direction of the market. Once you have a good handle on the, and by the way, that's not always easy. Some days it's easy, some days there's a conflict, some days it's a little confusing. And there are some days where the best decision you can make is to do nothing, okay? But there are days where the direction becomes pretty obvious, and we talk about our roadmap idea in that webinar as well. But today it was pretty obvious that the bias and everything was leaning on the upside. So once you have direction in place, then you're looking for location, and there's several ways to do that, several ideas we talk about, one of which I showed you from our manual, was what we call that pure breakout trade, which we had a great example of that today. So breaking out on a level 3, it's showing us extreme buying aggressions coming into the market on the high of the day, other evidence in place, green filter, up bias, we're above that 87.50. Hopefully that's making sense. So that's just what I wanted to show. I recommend, if you're interested in this, check out that webinar we did yesterday. The first few minutes are kind of theory, and then we get into more information on these relative aggression bars, and then some of the confluence ideas and some of these other trade ideas. But the key point I'm trying to make with this, and that we think is so important, is it's not about being systematic or robotic. It's about being able, the true skill in trading is about being able to put things in context and make sense of what's going on in real time. It's not something you learn in one day, but it's stuff that I didn't have a clue on until I met Dave, and he's been teaching me this for years. And I think we've simplified this to a pretty good level. It's not robotic, but I think we've tried to make this pretty easy to grasp with these tools. So if this is of interest to you, let us know. We can give you more information as well, and hopefully this makes sense. If you have any other questions, certainly let us know, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.